Now heading into the early evening news roundup with the latest stories across Scotland from Shireen Nanjiani, Sarah Haney and Scotland Today.
Tonight's top stories.
Don't panic. Experts calm bird flu fears and insist contingency plans here in Scotland are sufficient.
Under the microscope, but no public inquiry into the Scottish Fingerprint Service.
Farewell for a Scottish soldier. Funeral is held for the 100th serviceman to die in Iraq.
And in sport, it's fame set and match for Murray as he goes all the way in San Jose.
Good evening. Scottish farmers are preparing for the arrival of bird flu. There are still no confirmed cases of the deadly H5N1 strain in the UK, but the government is advising that free-range birds will have to be moved inside should the virus arrive here.
Bird flu has killed 91 people since the first confirmed cases in Vietnam and Thailand just over 2 years ago. Last month there were deaths in Turkey. The non-human virus then spread to Italy and Greece, and one case has just been confirmed in France. The question now is, how long before it reaches the UK? Ronald Leask reports.
Across Scotland, this is a worrying time for people who keep birds as avian flu creeps ever closer. Vets are making sure those who keep poultry know the telltale signs of the deadly H5N1 virus.
What we'd be looking for if avian flu came in is that the head would become very swollen, you wouldn't be able to see the eyes any longer.
With the confirmation that a duck in France did die of the disease, the worry is the UK will soon have its first case. But extensive testing of British wild birds have all proved negative so far.
Since October, over 3,500 samples have been taken from wild birds across the country, both Scotland, Ireland, Wales and England, and to date, high pathogenic H5N1 has not been found.
An outbreak of avian flu here in Scotland would hit free-range farms like this particularly hard. On the continent, many countries have now banned the keeping of poultry outside, and whilst the British government say any talk of a similar ban here is premature, they want both poultry producers and the general public to be vigilant. But many free-range farmers aren't waiting for the government to order their birds indoors. Michael Williamson is making sure his farm buildings will keep his hens safely inside.
Well, at the moment, with the situation in France, we're getting very concerned about it, and we're now making contingency plans so as we can get the birds under cover into the old steading buildings.
The government are urging consumers to keep buying chicken and other meat and say they are well prepared should avian flu arrive here.
I do not want the public and I do want poultry keepers to enter some sort of panic. I think that would be an entirely wrong approach. That's not to say that I am not taking this very seriously indeed.
Members of the public are being urged to do their bit and report any unexplained bird deaths, particularly if there is more than one. Ronald Leask, Scotland Today.
The Justice Minister Cathy Jamieson says the fingerprint service in Scotland should be subject to greater scrutiny, but has ruled out a public inquiry. She was speaking for the first time on the case of former detective Shirley Mckee, who won £750,000 in damages from the executive.
It was alleged Miss McKee's fingerprint was left at a murder scene nearly a decade ago. Well, the long-running saga has cast doubt on the Scottish Fingerprint Service. Our reporter Mike Edwards joins us live from Glasgow. Mike.
Shireen, yes, this is one of the biggest controversies in Scotland in recent times. It began in February 1997 when Shirley Mckee was a detective with Strathclyde Police. She was involved in the investigation into the murder of Kilmarnock woman Marion Ross. It was claimed that a thumbprint found in Marion Ross's house belonged to Shirley Mckee. She always strenuously denied this. She lost her job and then embarked on a lengthy campaign to try to clear her name. In 1999 she was tried and cleared on charges of perjury, and thereafter hired a team of international fingerprint experts, each one of whom said there was no way that that fingerprint could have belonged to Shirley Mckee. Well, earlier this month she won a major victory, settling out of court for £750,000 in damages from the Scottish Executive. Now, the whole affair has prompted calls for a public inquiry, but that is something the Executive will not sanction.
There have been inquiries into that in the past. concerted series of actions were taken as a result. I'm not against continuing to scrutinise that, and of course we are going to bring forward some further changes in the current police bill that's going through Parliament.
Justice Minister Cathy Jameson, Mike, Scotland's fingerprinting service hasn't come out of this well, has it?
No, indeed, Shireen. In fact, it has been labelled by some American experts as an international laughingstock, and one American has even gone so far as to say that the FBI intervened to try to protect the integrity of Scottish fingerprint evidence, which was being led at the Lockerbie trial at Camp Zeist 6 years ago. Shirley Mckee tonight is obviously trying to put this all behind her and to get on with the rest of her life, but clearly the fallout from this affair is still being measured.
Mike, thanks for that. Well, let's speak live now to Shirley Mckee's father, Ian, who's been campaigning on his daughter's behalf. Mr Mckee, what do you make of the Minister's call for greater scrutiny but ruling out a public inquiry?
I find it amazing whenever openness and accountability is mentioned in this country, the Scottish Executive seem to retreat in fear. There has never been a public inquiry into the actions of the Scottish Executive. And what they're trying to do now is they're trying to concentrate on the Scottish Criminal Records Office, and what they forget is this is not an inquiry we're asking for into just the behaviour of the fingerprint experts. We want to look at the behaviour of Cathy Jameson herself and the Lord Advocate, and also, of course, questions like who murdered Marion Ross.
Do you think your daughter was sacrificed to protect the integrity of the Lockerbie investigation?
I believe that's what happened. For 9 years, we've struggled to try and understand why did this happen, and I do believe that that was a part in this. I believe at the time of Shirley's trial in 1999, leading up to the Lockerbie trial, they were dead scared that anything would rock the boat, that there would be any doubt cast on forensic evidence in Scotland, and I really believe that this is behind it. This does not augur well for people like the Lord Advocate, who have consistently said it's got nothing to do with it. This is why we need a public inquiry in front of a judge. It's no sense in going to the Parliament to say a Justice Committee to look at this, because they can't look at it. We're dealing with possible criminality here, and we're talking about cover-up at the very highest echelons of the Scottish Government.
Mr Mckee, thank you very much for joining us. You're watching Scotland Today.
I'll stay with us because still to come on the main Scottish news, can studying thousands of ordinary families breathe new life into our communities?
And we hear from the Scottish actor who's a rising star at the movies.
And Jane has the sports headlines.
And indeed, thanks Sarah. Good evening. Well, Murray is certainly the man. He soars up the world rankings after winning his first senior event. Also tonight, Burke and Boyd do it for club but not for country. Rix wants to extend his Tynecastle stay. We'll of course show you all the goals from the weekend's SPL games, and we hear from rugby's comeback kid. It all comes soon.
Thanks very much, Jane. Hundreds of mourners have gathered to remember a Scottish soldier and family man who became the 100th member of the British Armed Forces to be killed in Iraq. Corporal Gordon Pritchard would have been home on leave tomorrow. He was killed at the end of January while delivering supplies. Matt Bingham reports.
It was a Pritchard family tradition to serve in the Royal Scots Dragoon Guards. Gordon's father joined the regiment after his father before him. 6 current members carried the coffin of their fallen comrade into a packed church where family, friends and older generations of soldiers had gathered.
One thinks of all the others who've died as well, but it's good that we mark this occasion as a very special one, and it's very fitting that we should have this, well, nearly a public service, but a very private family service, but with the right ceremony to send this brave young man onwards.
31-year-old Gordon was doing a job he loved, but just a month after meeting Tony Blair at a base near Basra, he was dead. He was commanding a convoy of 3 vehicles on a routine rations and water run through the port city of Qazar when a roadside bomb exploded, killing him instantly. His death set a grim milestone for the armed forces and prompted fresh calls for troops to be sent home.
I would hope it would make it clear to the public that their armed forces are doing to the best of their ability what they believe is right. Their job is to make Iraq a safer place so that the country can go back to normal, and that's what they're doing, and they are doing it to the best of their ability.
Speaking shortly after his death, Gordon's wife Julianne said if he had to die, he'd die doing what he wanted to do, serving on operations with his regiment. Matt Bingham, Scotland Today.
An inquest has begun at Epsom Magistrates Court into the death of Private James Collinson at the controversial Deep Cut Army Barracks in 2002. The 17-year-old was found dead with a single gunshot wound to his head after a solo guard duty shift at the Surrey base. His death has been recorded as suicide, but his parents want a full public inquiry. His mother says that they'll continue to demand one, even if this inquest returns a verdict of unlawful killing.
Really, we just hope to find the truth. We've heard various suggestions from all quarters as to what happened, and it's good to hear witness accounts firsthand. The verdict we'd be most happy with is unlawful killing, because we believe that's what happened to our son. And if they come back with that, then we'll be happy with that, but we will still continue for a public inquiry, and as I've said earlier, I hope the coroner backs our call.
Yvonne Collinson speaking there. Scientists are to spend £4.5 million and 10 years studying the lives of 7,000 ordinary Glaswegian families. Go Well, the first research project of its kind, will look at the effects of community regeneration. The results will then be used to tackle the city's record as the sick man of Europe. Claire Dean reports.
62-year-old Bill Wason has lived in the New Shaws area of Glasgow for 20 years, 15 of which he was unemployed.
And I was doing a lot of voluntary work in different places, drop-in centres and things like that, so it kept me occupied doing these things. So
but if you hadn't had
I hadn't had that, I would just be wandering about, lost.
And how healthy do you feel then?
I feel healthy. As healthy can be. This area is a nice area. I like this area. It's like every other area, but there is problems in every area. But this one's one of the better ones. Well, that's the new central heating they put in, and the new radiators all gas central heated. So it has made a difference in the houses.
Glasgow has undergone many transformations in the past, and the decision makers have not always got it right. And in many cases, the changing face of the city has led to significant inequalities in the health of its people.
Whereas a 15-year-old boy living in the East End of Glasgow has only about a 1 in 2 chance of surviving to age 65, in the West End or surrounding areas like Bearsden and Mulgai, 9 out of 10 15-year-old boys will live to 65. So that just shows the scale of difference in health between very closely located communities.
The Go Well study will follow the lives of 7,000 Glaswegians from 12 different communities over an entire decade. The findings will help ensure the £1 billion planned investment in the city's homes and communities is money well spent.
Now the question is, what will we do this time that is so different from the 1960s or the 1930s or the 1890s? And this study fundamentally allows us to track what's working, what's not working, and most importantly, where we can do things better.
Experts believe the key to improving the health of the city lies in creating sustainable communities, communities where people want to live, not where people end up. Claire Dean, Scotland Today, Glasgow.
OK, let's take a look at some of the other stories making the news in Scotland today. Police in West Lothian say they haven't given up hope of finding a 92-year-old man who went missing from his home in Broxburn at the end of last week. Sandy Sinclair's family haven't heard from him since they spoke to him on the phone on Thursday night. Officers have been searching local waterways and even garden sheds for the pensioner, who is said to be alert but suffers from a heart condition.
He's 92 years of age, he's been very independent, and for this to happen to him at this particular time of life is quite upsetting for the family, but they're very resilient and they are certainly hopeful still.
A driver who almost killed a young woman in a head-on crash has been jailed for 4 months. Daniel Rafferty overtook 2 cars on a blind summit on the Lugton to Beath Road last April before crashing into 21-year-old Kerry Clark's car. She was in hospital for 6 months and faces years of medical treatment as a result of the accident.
And the head of Scottish Water, Professor Alan Alexander, has resigned after a disagreement with ministers over the organisation's delivery plan for the next 4 years. A spokesman for the Scottish Executive said the scheme fell short of requirements in a number of material respects. Time for sport, and there'll be one Scottish household celebrating, no doubt.
Yeah, I'm sure that Murray household will be rubbing their hands together with glee. Scottish tennis sensation Andy Murray has broken into the world's top 50 after claiming his first big title in the States. The teenager from Dunblane stormed to victory in San Jose with a thrilling 3-set win over the Australian Leighton Hewitt. And some in the know now believe he could be worth £50 million within 5 years. Here's Susie Mayer.
The winning backhand, which marked the end of what Andy Murray called the best week of his life. His final against Australian Leighton Hewitt in San Jose was a thriller. He lost the first set 2-6 but stormed back to take the second 6-1. The decider went all the way and the 18-year-old held his nerve to clinch the tiebreak and his biggest title yet. An outstanding performance which he attributed in part to the presence of his girlfriend Kim Sears.
It's the first time she came to a tournament with me, and you know, maybe a little bit more relaxed on court. Yeah, and you know, I played really well, and yeah, hopefully she'll come to a few more tournaments.
Murray's rise to the top has been nothing short of meteoric. He first picked up a racket when he was just 3, his talent immediately obvious. By the age of 12, he'd won numerous events and claimed his first international junior title in France. But it was in 2004 that he demonstrated his true potential, becoming the first British player ever to win the US Open Boys Championships in New York. A year later, and he was making his mark on the senior circuit, reaching the 3rd round of Wimbledon and breaking into the top 100. The victory in San Jose sees him soar to a career high of 47.
What he's shown is that when he's had a chance to play against the very best players in the world, he's really risen to the occasion, and that's got to stand him in good stead. Still a long way to go, but I think it shows that he's got a game to get to the very top.
Even Murray's closest rivals predict this win on the main tour will be the first of many, and the bookies seem to agree. Wimbledon's still 4 months away, but he's now priced at 16-1 to take the biggest prize of all. Susie Mayer, Scotland Today.
Oh, good on him too. Now, Walter Smith admits Rangers pair Chris Boyd and Chris Burke were in his thoughts for Scotland's forthcoming friendly, but he says others deserve their chance before them. Meanwhile, Aberdeen's Jamie Smith has withdrawn from the squad for next month's game against Switzerland at Hampden, but Gary Naismith returns while Gary Teal's form with Wigan has certainly impressed.
Despite their current form, Walter Smith has resisted the temptation to raid his former club for Scotland's next friendly. The two Chrissies are currently going through a purple patch, and on Saturday Burke's pace set up Boyd for Rangers' opening goal against Hibs. But while they're doing the business for their club, their country's not calling just yet.
They're in our thoughts. I've watched them quite a bit in recent weeks. Both these players have been doing very well this season, but some of the boys that we've been in, Derek Ryan, Gary O'Connor, Sean Maloney and others have been doing well, you know, for a longer period of time, and I just feel it's maybe a little bit early.
While they miss out, Barry Ferguson is obviously in, and no doubt the national coach would have been pleased to see him get on the score sheet at the weekend. Elsewhere among the 25-man squad, and Everton's Gary Naismith is back after a year out through injury.
It's a position of the pitch we're not that well endowed for players, so you know, I'll give him an opportunity to come back, get involved in the squad. It's been a year since he's been with the squad due to his injury, and it'll be good to have him back.
In midfield, and while Jamie Smith has withdrawn with a hamstring injury, Gary Teal makes a return 2 years after his last appearance in a Scotland squad.
I've been down to see him a couple of times, and he's been doing exceptionally well, so he's another one, although slightly older than a lot of the others who have been coming into the team. You know, I think he deserves his inclusion.
So Teal's in, but while Burke and Boyd need to be patient, there was some good news for their club today. Half-yearly figures show an increase in turnover of almost £9.5 million, which means an increase in profit of almost £1.5 million.
Hearts head coach Graham Rix hopes to extend his stay at the club beyond the summer. Rix signed a short-term deal in November and insists he'd be delighted to continue in what he describes as a great job. While the gap between Hearts and Celtic at the summit of the SPL is still 13 points after the weekend's games, Raman Bardwaj's roundup begins at East End Park, where Dunfermline were put to the swords.
This is the look of a manager whose team has been battered by the champions in waiting. As Jock Brown now describes, it was a super Sunday for Celtic, but a real shocker for Dunfermline.
This is Wilson going outside McCunny. And there's the opening goal by Petrov. Missed by Boric. And then by Campbell. A magnificent header by Andy Todd. Petrov well forward. That's a great pass for Zurawski. Zurawski's clear. The block was made, and there's Hartson. Oh, this is Hartson setting up Zurawski. A shot at goal is on. Zurawski's not offside. Chance from number 4. Zurawski. This is for Hartson. And now an opening for Zurawski. That's from Maloney. Oh, that's a classic by Maloney. Well, that's what they really would like to see. He scored! Neil Lennon. Goes Zurawski. He's getting the better of Todd for pace. This could be his 4th. It is!
The quality of the finishing at Tynecastle was pretty impressive too, where Hearts won at a canter against Motherwell. Edgar Jankauskis finished off a neat move for the opener. Contrast that one to the Lithuanian and Hearts' second inside 15 minutes. The 3 points were as good as in the bag then, but they were firmly planted there in the 78th minute when Callum Elliott nicked in behind the Well defence. In the end, it wasn't a happy return to management for John Robertson, although it started well enough for him and those of Livingston persuasion when Stephen Hislop put the visitors ahead at Rugby Park. Then came the Kilmarnock comeback, starting with Gary Wales's goal, his 7th in 9 games. Stephen Naismith also enjoying a rich vein of form. He put Killie ahead just before the half-hour mark, and the victory was secured early into the second half, courtesy of Danny Invincible. Jim Jeffrey's side still has a healthy 7-point advantage over 7th-placed Aberdeen, who defeated Falkirk 1-0 on Saturday. Sandwiched in 6th place are Inverness Cally Thistle, who came back from a goal down to defeat Dundee United 4-2 at Tannadice. Raman Bardwaj, Scotland Today.
And of course there'll be more highlights from the weekend's SPL games this evening from 11 o'clock on Scott Sport SPL. On to rugby, and Nathan Hines feels as though he's never been away after his first training session with Scotland in almost a year. The former Edinburgh lock hopes this Saturday's Calcutta Cup will give him a chance to erase the unhappy memories of his last international appearance, a heavy defeat by England. But that was under the Matt Williams regime, which led to Hines' self-imposed exile.
It's just very suppressive, and now it feels like, not just for me, but it feels like the other guys have had just a weight lifted from their shoulders and be able to play. And Frank and everyone else, all the coaching staff are instilling confidence in the boys, and that's something we didn't have before.
So it's the right time for you to come back?
Yeah, I think it is the right time. It was the only time really I couldn't have come back before now, but now I think it's good.
Finally for me, the British women curlers have just started their crucial match against the USA. They of course need to win and hope that Denmark can beat Canada. Also good luck this evening to Scotland's John and Sinead Kerr. Fingers crossed that their free dance will impress the judges. That's all the sport for me this evening. Good luck to them.
Thank you very much, Shane. Now, staying with sport, and here's your chance to see Rangers at Ibrox on Wednesday when they take on Villarreal in the last 16 of the Champions League. We've teamed up with Ford, the official sponsor of the UEFA Champions League, to offer a pair of VIP hospitality tickets to the match.
To enter, just tell us who were Rangers' last Champions League opponents at Ibrox. Was it Porto, Inter Milan or Artmedia Bratislava? You can enter by phoning 0901 293 0505. Calls cost £1 plus your standard network charges, and those mobile rates may vary.
Or you can text MATCH A, B or C to 88010. Text cost £1 plus your usual carrier tariff. You've got to be 18 or over to enter. Lines close at midnight on Tuesday. And log on to the Scottish TV website for full details, and the best of luck. Now, Mark Austin and Mary Nightingale will be here in a few minutes with all the UK and international news.
On tonight's evening news, bird flu moves ever closer to our shores. Are we prepared to tackle an outbreak? We'll have the latest on the killer virus.
And the teenager guilty of knifing and killing a girl at a party. The dark world of girls and gangs exposed. Join us for that and more at 6:30.
First, the main news headlines here in Scotland today. Experts insist Scotland is well prepared to deal with an outbreak of bird flu.
The Justice Minister has ruled out a public inquiry into the Scottish fingerprinting service.
And the funeral of a Scottish soldier killed in Iraq has taken place.
And finally tonight, another Scot whose career is definitely on the up. Actor James McAvoy last night walked away with the Rising Star Award at the BAFTAs.
The 27-year-old Glaswegian picked up his gong in the company of some of Hollywood's biggest names. Liz Monaghan reports.
The cream of the movie world braved the very British weather to step out at the BAFTAs, and on a night when the Americans stole the show, it was left to 27-year-old James McAvoy to fly the flag for Scotland, scooping the only award voted for by the public.
They're the people who, provide us with purpose. We do it for an audience. We do it to tell stories to people, and it's good that the public who allow us to make these films are getting their say in what is Britain's biggest celebration of film.
McAvoy's most recent big screen appearance was as Mr. Tumnus in The Chronicles of Narnia, and today at the school where he trained, his former teachers were toasting his success.
Really, from even before he actually graduated, he was already showing a lot of promise, and as far as I'm aware, has hardly stopped working since he left.
And after last night's success, he's likely to be even busier. Liz Monaghan, Scotland Today.
Talented and good-looking.
I know.
Very.
Absolutely. That's it. I'll be back with a recap of the headlines at 5 to 7. The late news at 10:30. We'll see you tomorrow.
Tomorrow the same. Good night.
Change your outlook with Flybe, sponsors of Scottish Weather.
Now the Scottish weather, and the satellite picture shows patchy cloud over the country today. Most places will be dry tonight with clear skies and frost in places. Skies will be cloudier across the Lothians with showers turning to sleet over high ground. It'll be fine, dry and bright in the west tomorrow morning, but cloudy in the east with showers turning wintry over the hills. During the afternoon, showers in the east will stay wintry over high ground, but it'll continue fine and cold elsewhere. Now, the fly-through forecast. And over the Western Isles, we can see fine and dry conditions with broken cloud and moderate northeasterly winds. Over Islay and Kintyre, it'll continue fine with long periods of wintry sunshine. As we move further west towards Glasgow, skies become more cloudy, and across the central belt towards Edinburgh, it'll be increasingly overcast. Fife and the borders are likely to see showers, and these will turn wintry over the hills. It'll feel cold right across the region, with temperatures only peaking at 5 degrees Celsius. Now taking a closer look at the central belt, where wintry sunshine in the west gives way to cloudier skies and occasional showers as we head east towards the Firth of Forth. Temperatures in Grangemouth will only reach about 4 degrees Celsius. Now looking ahead to Wednesday, and after a bright start, cloud and rain will push in from the east. Any wintry showers will rapidly clear westwards on Thursday. Another chilly but mainly dry and bright day is due on Friday, and it'll be mostly dry with sunny spells on Saturday.
Change your outlook with Flybe, sponsors of Scottish Weather.